So, you know that heavy, awkward silence that just kind of hangs in the air right after someone who is clearly struggling insists they don't need a hand? Imagine this. You drop a massive stack of papers, or maybe you're rushing to meet a deadline with a look of pure panic on your face. A colleague steps forward, right? And they offer, "Hey, can I help you with that?" And before your brain even has a chance to process the offer, your mouth is literally already moving. "I'm fine." Two of the most common words in the English language, but let's be honest with ourselves here. How often are they actually true? Welcome to this explainer. If you love dissecting why we do the things we do, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're holding up a mirror to a behavior almost all of us share. We're going to unpack the architecture of refusal, specifically diving into the Stoic silence and the psychology of refusing help. We'll decode the mechanics behind pushing assistance away and explore what actually happens in our minds when we instinctively reject support. Let's decode this together, shall we? To get us started, I want to pose this central mystery directly to you. Why do some people never ask for help? We're essentially embarking on a bit of a psychological detective story today, because we all know people, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's a colleague, or maybe, if we're being completely honest, it's you, who will go to incredible lengths to avoid asking for a favor. They'll carry an impossible burden rather than reach out. So what's the root of that? What is that invisible force field that prevents the words "I need help" from actually being spoken? Let's follow the clues. All right, section 1. The "I'm fine" reflex. Before we can diagnose the underlying condition, we really need to look at the symptom, this highly recognizable surface-level behavior. We're looking at the automatic, universal rejection of assistance. And the absolute key word here is automatic. Saying "I'm fine" is rarely a calculated, rational decision. You don't pause, weigh the pros and cons of receiving help, evaluate your current cognitive bandwidth, and then politely decline. No way. It's an immediate psychological reflex. Essentially, it's a flinch. When help approaches, the shield goes up instantly. Why? Well, because psychologically, accepting help can actually feel like a threat to ego preservation. In many hyper-independent mindsets, receiving support feels like an admission of inadequacy, or it feels like the creation of an immediate social debt. So the brain bypasses logic entirely to protect the ego from the vulnerability of needing support. It literally blocks the help before it can even get close. Moving on to section 2. Defining the Stoic silence. Now that we've identified that reflex, let's shift from the everyday symptom to the actual clinical diagnosis. The Stoic silence is the psychological phenomenon of consistently refusing help and maintaining the position that one is fine. Notice the emphasis on consistency here. This isn't about setting healthy boundaries or turning down help once because you legitimately have things under control. It's a persistent, unwavering commitment to the narrative of self-sufficiency. Think of it kind of like building a fortress where the drawbridge is permanently pulled up. You might have a colleague who is practically drowning in project tasks, working late every single night. Yet every time you offer to take something off their plate, they just smile tight-lipped and say they have it handled. That is the Stoic silence in action. It's an absolute insistence on projecting total wellness, regardless of what the actual internal reality is. What's really fascinating here is the massive disconnect at the heart of this behavior. Outwardly, the action is simple, right? Refusing help. It's the verbal "I'm fine," projecting ease, control, and fierce independence. But internally, it's a chaotic psychological knot. The external words are essentially a mask, hiding a mechanism that is entirely inward and hidden from view. And maintaining that mask requires an immense amount of cognitive load. The person isn't only managing whatever crisis or burden they're currently facing, but they are simultaneously burning mental energy to ensure no one else realizes they are struggling. The outward calm is a direct contradiction to the inward friction, making the refusal an active, draining process rather than a peaceful state of independence. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 3. The psychology of refusing help. Let's break down the mechanics of how someone constructs this impenetrable wall. Because the anatomy of refusal isn't just one single action, it's a layered psychological defense. It starts at the perimeter with the verbal barrier, that immediate conversational roadblock of "I'm fine" that we just discussed. But underneath that surface lies a much deeper, active psychology of rejecting help. Refusal is not passive. It takes continuous mental labor to push support away, constantly generating internal justifications for why you don't need anyone. And over time, this active resistance hardens into something more permanent, an absolute state of never asking. It literally morphs from a situational defense mechanism into a core personality trait. The individual essentially rewires their brain to stop even recognizing the option of external support, permanently locking themselves inside their own self-constructed silo. To really understand how deeply ingrained this becomes, let's walk through it step by step. Imagine you're completely overwhelmed at work. You've missed a deadline, your inbox is overflowing, and you're feeling a massive spike of panic. That right there is the state of need. In a typical scenario, this is the exact moment you might reach out. But for someone caught in the Stoic silence, instantly their brain perceives an offer to help or even the idea of asking for it, not as relief, but as an acute threat to their competence. The psychological refusal activates before they've even fully processed the stress. So, to neutralize the situation, the I'm fine reflex is deployed outwardly, pushing everyone away. The result? Help is never asked for, the burden remains entirely on their shoulders, and they successfully survive the crisis alone. But surviving alone completes a closed loop. It just reinforces the belief that they can do it alone, basically guaranteeing that the next time a need arises, this exhausting cycle is going to trigger all over again. Which brings us to our conclusion, and a paradox I really want to leave you with today. If we are truly fine, why do we need the Stoic silence? Think about it. True wellness, genuine capability, and confidence don't usually require a rigid, defensive wall to protect them. The very existence of this automatic reflex and the immense psychological energy required to maintain this active refusal, well, it suggests that perhaps we aren't as fine as we claim. A perfectly secure fortress rarely needs its guards on high alert 24 hours a day. So I challenge you to rethink your own Stoic habits the next time someone offers you a hand. Maybe let the drawbridge down just a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep seeking to understand the why behind the what, and I'll catch you in the next one.